The Nook.
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 Hey everybody, happy Saturday. Welcome into the NookCast with your host KL. Welcome into episode 8. I'm really excited for today's episode because we have two guests that have not yet been on the NookCast. Today I am joined by KingArgaroth and Tugboet. And today we're going to be talking about stream team event planning. As you guys know, the Nook has already done a fair bit of events as a team. There's a lot of work that goes into them, from the initial planning and brainstorming about what to even do to then like the real planning, hosting, and then there's also work while the event is going on. There's post work. There's a lot that goes into these events. So I'm very excited to talk to these gentlemen about event planning in general. Both Tug and King have done a lot of work for our Nook events. So this is going to be a fun episode. I'm looking forward to it. Just a friendly reminder, as always, that we will not always be reading or interacting with the chat very much throughout the episode. The intent of this live podcast, as always, is to mimic a recorded podcast. We are going to have many Nookians in the chat, though, throughout the day that you can talk to and interact with. So if there happens to be something that we didn't address, we will open up for questions at the very end of the episode. So keep that in mind. But before we dive into the meat of the episode today, just a reminder that Big Dig Season 2 is starting February 15th, kicking off with 10 new Nook streamers. And there's going to be over 20 challenges, and it is going to be a wonderful time. There is the link to our tweet about that, so you can check out who is going to be involved in Big Dig Season 2. It is going to be a good one. I'm excited to watch this season. I think it's going to be better than Big Dig Season 1. It's going to be a good time. And then, for those of you that may have missed, the Nook has merch now. The Nook has merch, and there's the link that you can go and purchase our merch at. It is now live on Teespring. We have a cozy blanket, we've got a Nook mug, and we also have, thanks to KP, we have a Nookamon poster. KP has turned us all into Pokemon and put us all on a poster, and it is one of the best things that I have ever seen.
That is going to be a limited edition run, just FYI.
Oh, is
the
it?
Nookamon
Okay.
poster will not be up for long. It's super cursed.
Get it in now then. Get your order in now if you want one. So you can go check that out there. All profits from the merch is going to be donated to charities, to charity during the Nook Summer Charity Festival. So the team is not taking any profit from that. So there you go. It is cursed. Yes, it is extremely cursed. I should probably introduce our guests now, or let our guests introduce themselves. So today I have KingArgaroth and Tugboet, both Nook streamers. And King, I'll let you go first.
Hi guys, I'm KingArgaroth. I was one of the organizers behind the last 2 Nook charity festivals, and I'm a bit of an idiot, but I get by.
You are a legend, King.
I'll take your word for it.
If there are viewers right now that have never been to your stream, what can they expect to see when they go there?
A warm community who love to talk about some of the deeper things, such as mental health. We can have civil conversations about the way the world is, or something like that, and we try and always see each other as family. And in the background, you've got me trying ridiculous things, and it's always going wrong.
Also, if you guys have never participated in a KingArgaroth raid, you have to, because King does something that I've never seen anyone else do, which is a compliment raid. And it is one of the best things to be a part of, is going into someone's stream and just pasting a giant compliment into their chat. It is a very wholesome, lovely thing.
It's a lot of fun. It's like spam, but because it's so wholesome, you can get away with it.
Yeah, it's pretty lovely. It's pretty lovely. Thank you, King. Tugboet.
Hi, I'm Tug. I'm one of the leaders of the Nook. So I do a lot of the behind the scenes work for our events. And on my stream, I do a lot of variety. But right now, I'm pretty fully addicted to Stardew Valley. So that's mostly what you'll find right now. But I do bounce around a little bit. It's variety of a sort. I'm dating a variety of people in Stardew Valley. That counts, right? So we'll go with that.
That is variety.
Yeah.
That is variety. Thank you both for introducing yourself. I just threw your links in chat. For those of you that are not following King and Tug, definitely go give them a follow, check out their channels. Both amazing, amazing streamers. I mean, the Nook wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Twiggy and Tug. So, yeah, go follow Tug if you're not following Tug. Thank you again for joining me on this episode today. I am very sorry if you can hear Ella today. She is extra whiny. So like I said, we are going to be talking about Stream Team event planning. For those of you that are unaware, I think most of you in chat right now, but just in case we have somebody in chat right now that doesn't know, the Nook has done quite a few big events. We had the Nook Summer Charity Festival, which was 100 hours of consecutive streaming with a good amount of the team. And we raised an insane amount of money, over $50,000 To Write Love on Our Arms, which was insane. I think our initial goal was 10,000. So that was pretty wild. And that was a result of just our collective participation, our communities also just being like, it was our communities just being amazing with this event. But that event was massive, and that event took a lot of work. So I feel like in our conversation today, we are going to be talking a lot about that event. We also just had a holiday charity event, which was much smaller, but I feel like that one we still had a lot of work go into that as well. So those are probably the two big ones that we've talked about, but I'm sure throughout this conversation we might talk about some of like the smaller ones that we've done as well, or even talk about the big dig as in this. So how the flow of this conversation is going to go is we're just going to kind of start at the top of event planning and work our way down through the different stages. So, and where we begin with that is the brainstorming and ideas stage. Like, how do we even think? How do we come up with these events? What goes into the brainstorming?
I'm not really much of a brainstormer.
Okay.
In terms of planning, I see myself as like the guy who gets the paint and then does what he wants with it, but I never go out and buy the paints. I never have an idea. I'm much more, if you delegate me to a task, I suddenly become really good, and I think that really helped me, particularly when said brainstormer such as Tugboet comes with an idea. I can then be given that idea and go, okay, I can go away with it now.
Yeah.
As far as like the initial brainstorming and ideas stages for our events, we've done a bunch of different events from like speedrunners tournaments to team quizzes that take place during our charity events to we have the big dig, and we also just kicked off the big build as well. So we have a lot of different events, and those are all initial brainstorm phase is just like, hey, what would be something fun to do? And then taking that as a goal and kind of building towards that. So we had seen, for instance, the big dig. We had seen other teams and groups do the hot potato challenge, which many of our Nook streamers have taken part in previously, and we thought that is a really really fun idea. That's a shared thing that we could do as a team, and initially part of the goal was to just have a common event that was running for a while to bring everybody together as a team a little bit as a team building exercise. So we wanted to do something unique, but not necessarily copy directly what the hot potato is doing. So that's when
Right.
we decided to go with Minecraft and do a hardcore challenge on that. So that piece is just the brainstorming piece of that is just having an idea of what you want to do, whether that's raise money for charity, whether that's put on a fun event, whether that's team building. Just have an end goal in mind and then build back from that. You need to build up the pieces to getting to where you want to go. So
Mhm. I like that you mentioned, seeing what other people are doing, and you never want to copy someone outright, but I mean, it's no secret that
yeah,
people get inspiration from one another, right? And then just kind of take that and figure out how to make that their own. Um, and yeah, the RimWorld Hot Potato is a wonderful event that a lot of people know of. And I feel like the Big Dig with the Nook is very much going to be like that if it isn't already. Like, just people might hear of the Big Dig before they even know what the Nook is, right? And and I know that the brainstorming about these types of events is going to continue, right? Like, what other like Minecraft is such a great game for something like this, just because it's so easy to pass along a save file and have multiple people involved. But not every game is like that. So Minecraft is kind of one of those perfect games.
yeah.
To have a good challenge with and have it be fun. And I really enjoy that the big build was something that you guys thought of this year as well, just for people that maybe didn't want to have the pressure of being in that competitive state where it's like they get the save file, they play with it, then they pass it along. Whereas the big build's going to be awesome because people can just go in whenever they want, and then everything stays there. And I'm so excited to see like the very end of it. Like, just seeing everything in the world that you guys have done is going to be so cool.
Yeah. A big piece of brainstorming, which Twiggy just mentioned, is using your community, using your team, and just brainstorming ideas. It's throwing a whole bunch of ideas out there, and then maybe someone will throw something out, and you go, "Oh, that."
Right.
When you're brainstorming, when you're coming up with ideas for stuff, there are no bad ideas. You just keep spewing stuff out, because even if it's not something that works, that might trigger a train of thought for somebody else to come up with something. So it should very much be a collective process.
For sure.
Like,
And you'll get
a
more
good
ideas that way too if you've got like 20 people throwing in ideas instead of just like two of you sitting and going, what can we do? Right.
Yeah, a good piece of advice I once heard when brainstorming is if you keep throwing ideas and you find there's a couple of ideas you keep coming back to, even if you've rejected them, then you know you're onto something. As a group, you know you've hit something. But I find that's something whenever I do have to plan stuff, I'll have an idea, I'll have several ideas. And if there's one that I keep coming back to and changing it and trying it differently, I usually admit that that's probably the idea I'm going to go with because there's clearly something about it which has latched onto my brain.
Right. That's a good point actually, because I can think about times in my life where that's happened. Like, you're brainstorming, but you keep coming back to that same, you know, there's one that will always just kind of stay with you, and then you just got to be like, okay, that must be it.
Yeah, it's like your gut is speaking to you.
Yep, gotta trust that gut feeling. It is almost never wrong.
Sure, let's go with that.
That's why I said almost never. All right. Once we've got, brainstorming and ideas, and you feel like you've got a good one that you want to go and run with it. Then comes the planning stage, which I feel like that's probably the biggest stage out of all of this, like out of all of the event planning that goes on. I mean, yeah, the event itself is a lot of work too, but I don't know. Planning can be a hell of a lot of work as well. Like actually
Yeah, there's
getting
an
it
old
figured out.
adage when it comes to planning. A lot of times it applies to when you're running stuff like tabletop RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're coordinating an event like that, basically every hour that you do of planning equates to about a half an hour of end content. So you're doing double the work for planning as you would for the final event. So when you take a look at the Nook Summer Charity Festival, which was 100 hours long, um, that took a lot, a lot of planning. It was 200 hours of planning easily,
Right.
easily,
Yeah.
maybe more. So that's always something to keep in mind when you're looking to plan something out. That is the biggest chunk of your time. You want to get to that event, you want to do the event, but if you don't take the time and do the work leading up to the event, it's never going to pan out like you want it to. So doing that groundwork is super, super important.
Well, especially for
Mhm.
something as big as this, where you're coordinating a bunch of streamers, and you got to plan like, okay, what is each streamer doing? Making the schedule, uh, regardless of whether it's the 100-hour one or the 24-hour one that we did for the holidays.
Something I noticed with both of the events as well, which I've noticed in like other parts of my life when I'm directing a theatre play or something like that. So if you're directing a stage play, what you tend to get is the actors who have a large interest in direction often want to have a lot more control over either their performance or elements of the performance. But when we were organizing for a stream team, what we had is a group of individuals who were so used to controlling everything about their own streams because we all started from the ground up. It actually became there was it's really hard to accept to delegate
Mm-hmm.
because we're so used to planning events on our own. But when it comes to a stream this big, we have to delegate. And it's hard because everyone will have a different idea of what the end product should be. So we have to have full trust. And actually with the Nook as well, it was quite reaffirming to have that idea of let's delegate this to you and I will have trust that you will do it.
Hmm.
And then being able to delete that. Whereas if you're working with strangers, sometimes you will delegate to them and then you'll be like, I don't know if they'll do a good job. So I definitely
Right.
think with all this planning between content creators, it's important to remember that there has to be specific people for specific areas, or everyone is going to plan an over plan, and then it's going to become much more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, delegation is exceptionally important. Number one person can't do all the work for an event. It's simply not possible. And number two, you need to take the skill set of each of the people that are taking part and try to delegate to them the things that they excel in. King excels at his quiz, at creating fun content like that.
Hmm.
And you need to recognize that and be able to delegate out tasks to different people. Like, for example, the Nook Summer Charity Festival, we handed off the promo materials to Chubex, who made a really fun, like concert style poster, and that gave us the base to develop all the promotional stuff going off of that. And if she hadn't done that work, then someone else would have had to do it, and that takes away from the other pieces of the puzzle that need to be done. So then you start to crumble down if you try to put all of the responsibility on one person. Delegation in something like that is exceptionally important.
Yeah. And I think like delegation is tricky, but at the same time, like I also find that it can be easier when you have a team like ours where everyone that wants to participate is genuinely excited to participate and like wants to help out. It can make delegation a lot easier. And I like that we have a team where, you know, if someone knows that they would be crap at helping out, like, you know, they fully admit like hey, I'll participate, but in terms of like, you know, we all just kind of looked in and you know, what's our workload kind of thing. Like even like I know that this podcast, I don't know that it's not really an event, but even still, like, you know, when we were brainstorming about the idea of starting the NookCast, like I just kind of like looked in at like what I was doing, and I was just like, man, like I would love to do something like this. Like, yeah, I'll jump in and help out, right? You know, so for each event, that can kind of make delegation easier when you've got a bunch of people raising their hands, being like, yeah, I want to help out. Definitely harder to delegate when when you don't have that. That's not to say that delegation is super easy anyway, like it's not, but
No, particularly if you're someone who likes control,
yeah.
which by and large, as King mentioned, most streamers,
Mm-hmm.
they have control of their production, they have control of their content, they have control over their chats, and when you take a little piece of that away, it can be kind of a struggle. But
Yeah.
one of the things that we thankfully have on the team is that people are very open and accepting of their weaknesses, and they're willing to communicate that,
Mm-hmm.
which comes down to a lot of other factors. But being able to recognize that maybe I'm not particularly good at this piece of the puzzle, so
Right.
it's fine if somebody else takes it, is super important. It's a super important piece of self-reflection in life, but particularly when it comes to something like this. Yeah.
Yeah. I also like that we have like a year of events now under our belt, because I think moving forward, you know, it'll get significantly easier. Like it still won't be fully easy, but you know, it's nice that we have that year now, so that, you know, we can reflect on like what went really well, what can we work on, and then moving forward, hopefully our events will just continue to be like, I mean, they'll always be amazing, but just even more so, you know,
It's good to have a
good.
base level,
Yeah.
which is what we've got. So we know what we can do with the Summer Charity Festival, and we know the pitfalls that we fell into, because it wasn't always smooth sailing. And I think on the act of delegation, there's something I call controlled delegation. So we might have put out a shout of like, who can do this? And you get a lot of eager people who are like, yeah, I can do this. And then no one takes initiative because so many people have volunteered.
That's true.
Sometimes it's nice just to be able to point at someone and go, you do this. And now we've kind of, like, that's just one example. Whenever there's any kind of planning, there's pitfalls. And every time you do an event, you will smooth over those pitfalls, and then you will probably find some new ones. But now that we know the roughly the same things, like we know some of the stuff that tripped us up last time. I know Ananda, who was basically like the head coordinator of the Summer Charity Festival. Personally, from what I saw myself as like her secretary, because like I said, I like the delegation. So Ananda could say, "Can you do this?" and I'll be on it. Getting the schedule of when people were in and deciding what people were going to play, because that kind of stuff could help if we wanted a theme to it, such as in the winter we did a co-op theme to our 24 hours festival, and that was really actually liberating because no one felt the pressure to come up with something new. It was just we had 6 events that were all already predetermined, and when we gave everyone the freedom to do what you want, a lot of pressure came on people like, I can't decide what to do.
Right.
So I think if we were going into the next festival, we'll know that some guidance may be necessary there just to get that schedule to us a bit quicker next time. But no doubt that's going to have its own problems, and I think that's part of the joys of planning is how good you are at adapting. I know Tug is a DM as well as I am, and that is no matter how much you plan for something, there's always going to be curveballs, and it's how quickly you can adapt to them and how expertly you can make it seem.
Here's my plan. 10 minutes later, we're going to put this over here
Mhm.
and start fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Maintaining flexibility and something like that is incredibly important. Adaptability and flexibility is an incredible talent to have, and that again comes down to surrounding yourself with the right people who can support you in that, to say like, hey, you know how we were going to do this, we can't do that, so we're going to do this now. And you know, getting people to rally around and excel with that is challenging, but it's also a lot of fun in the end.
Yeah, for
A
sure.
lot of fun.
Also, part of the planning stage, especially for our charity events that we've done, is deciding who to give money to. What kind of questions do you ask yourself, and what kind of goes into that with picking a charity?
Probably the biggest thing, we decided as a collective, as a team, for the summer charity event, who we were going to give money to. We decided pretty quickly that we were going to focus on a mental health charity, just with the, you know, everything broadly that was going on last year and continues to go on. Mental health is a focus, and it needs to continue to be a focus. So that was something that was cornerstone to the charity that we ended up picking, which is To Write Love on Her Arms. So taking that, and I think a big piece of that is getting input from everybody and getting everybody to buy into, yeah, that's definitely something I want to support. That's definitely something that I really want to help with. Helps with the buy-in with the event, helps energize people for the event, particularly when you're doing something charity related. If you have a passion for the content of the charity, it can drive so much more engagement, and both from the participants and from the community and the audience. So making that selection is a very important piece of the puzzle. You can't just draw from a hat. There has to be some form of connection there, because one of the biggest things with streaming, and if you watch a lot of streams, you can tell 100%, no matter how good they think they are at faking it, when a streamer is not engaged with a game or not engaged with what they're doing. You can absolutely tell. And if you're trying to raise money for a charity, you have to be engaged. You have to be passionate about that. That drives so much more engagement. So it's really important when you do that to do it as a collective and to find something that you can all be really engaged and passionate about.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, with picking a mental health charity, I mean, everybody has some connection to it. And like when I think back on the Nook Summer Charity Festival, like one of the highlights out of the whole event to me was King's like speech that he did during his portion of the event. Like, King got really like very emotional, and like, I was in chat and other people were, and we all just felt just so
I
many
cried.
feels with that. Yeah, like it was very powerful. And you know, King wasn't playing a game. Like there was just a little bit of music playing in the background, and King was just talking, and it was such a like right in your heart feeling and moment in the event, and like, yeah, it was wonderful. So yeah, fully agreed that, you know, picking a charity, like it has to everyone has to connect. And honestly, like before our charity event, I'd actually never heard of To Write Love on Our Arms. But you know, looked into them, and then through the event, and also just having their support throughout the event was really awesome too. That was really lovely to see, and definitely helps the event when the company that we're raising money for ends up getting involved too, even just with Twitter retweets and responses. But they also did come into chat, which was really nice for some streamers. So
I think during a charity event, such as 100 hours of video games, we could just play video games for 100 hours, and I don't think that would be as successful in terms of raising money. The fact is that we're using our passion for that charity, and how often we talked about that charity, and how passionate we were, also rubbed off on the community. I know so many members of the Nook community who were there felt like they were part of that, and of course they were. But it can be really hard on Twitch to engage your audience to feel that part of that. And I think it comes down to how Tug said is how you portray that passion. And because we had a charity that we were all very passionate about, I think it came across quite naturally. And it's easy to get passionate behind a mental health charity because it affects so many people. But um, having that as part of your engagement with the community, everyone so felt part of it that we ended up smashing all the expectations, because just knowing the commitment of the community at large, there is no way they were not going to. Once they get behind it, it's like an avalanche. Once the Nook fam get behind something, they roll and they roll and they roll, and they don't stop until all barriers have been broken.
Yeah. It's overwhelming every time.
yeah,
The big piece of that too is when you get a charity, when you decide on something for an event, when you decide on a target for an event, it's always good to reach out to them. If you're going to do a charity event, send them an email. Even if they don't do anything, you get on their radar. When we started the summer charity festival, we hadn't done anything. We hadn't proven ourselves in any way. We'd never done anything like that as a team. So we reached out to them, and they did offer us a little bit of support, but they didn't really buy into the event as a whole. You know, we tried to get front page time on Twitch, and we didn't get that because we hadn't done anything. There was no reason for them to believe that we could do what we did. So even if you reach out and you get a no, it at least gets you on their radar. So now next time when we reach out and we say, hey, we're doing this, or we reach out to a charity and say, hey, here's what we did last year, imagine what we can do together. Or reaching out to Twitch saying, hey, here's our viewership, here's what we did last year. Imagine what we could do together, and taking that piece. So even if you get a no, you get on the radar, and it allows people, it allows the charity, it allows the site, it allows everyone to see what you're capable of and what you can do. And then in the future, it's a lot easier to reach out, and you just kind of, you build that up, kind of like building an audience. You slowly build that up, and each time you have a little bit more and more to pull from.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be nice this year when we can actually show numbers and be like, hey, we're gonna do this event. Oh, by the way, this is what we did last year. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. Cool. All right. King, I know you'll probably talk about this a little bit later when we dive into like the actual hosting, but can you talk a bit about the planning that you go through? Like, because everyone loves your quizzes. Like you've hosted in our events, and you do a really good job of planning something super fun. I kind of just want to hear a little bit about the work that goes into that on your end. Do you get people to help you out with that too? Like, do you have delegation of your own? Like, what kind of work do you put in?
So in terms of content of like what questions are asked, what the rounds are, I can't really plan any of that until I know who's going to be part of it. And once I've got the teams, so for both quizzes, I've tried to tailor make the rounds and the questions a little bit to give a balanced. There's no point, for example, if the only retro streamer is Frazois, I'm not going to have a round on retro because that might seem a little unfair. But what I tend to do, so for the first quiz, I actually looked into just scrolled through the VODs of every person, looked at games they'd played, so I could kind of get a vibe on how much they are. And that's the same way when delegating people into certain teams. I was looking at that to balance. But it's when I plan, my number one plan isn't to be a good quiz. It is what's going to be entertaining for a Twitch audience to watch. So that's where I had rounds that may not work well as a quiz, like the Family Fortunes rounds. But chat like to be engaged in that, and sending out the forms to many members of the community and having their input to create them makes them feel involved in it. I remember one of my favorite moments of the entire summer charity festival was we were doing a ping pong round, and with that, team A answer, team B answer, team A answer, team B answer, and when you get one wrong, it's a fail. And my favorite question of that was when we were getting members to type Twitch emotes word for word, and the entire of chat were spamming like that emote and stuff. It really got this collective. You could tell they were engaged with it, and whether the participants were having fun or not, which is also a worry, and it's something you should always keep up to make sure the participants are having fun as well as the chat. That kind of knowing chat were loving that was brilliant. And so when it comes to that, I think of like what round would be good to watch. If I was a viewer, what stuff would I like? Because no one just wants the Nook flexing their egos at one another. It can be fun to see the rivalries, but what they also want is the chance for big failures, like in jokes to become a thing, like audio bad. They want to be able to laugh with the contestants if there is a bad answer, or be really impressed if someone scores really well or something like that. They want to support or find underdogs and stuff like that. So it's kind of making a plan that weaves a narrative. So maybe I start off with one round which is basically luck, such as the Family Feuds. How well do we know how well the Nook audience would answer? I have started looking at getting other people involved. I had a different score master in the winter quiz, just so I wasn't. That was the biggest regret of the first one. Is whilst I'm trying to focus on this, I was marking with a pencil. I was going through it in my head. It was so much easier. And for both of them, the tech side, so the plugin that the contestants could use, was created by Dr. Dre, and that was really that's a Twitch viewer, Dr. Dre, not the famous rapper. But that was really helpful to be able to have, because I know nothing about web plugins or designing any of that. It was lovely to be able to go, right, I know that's going to have a good end result, so I can focus on the content. And as well, there's stuff that goes into plans. So we've still not done our loser forfeit, which we need to announce. I freed up my schedule now, and I'm able to go in and start looking at doing the loser forfeit, and that's fun. There's before, there's after, there's how can you keep that quiz alive now, because the first one was enjoyed by so many, and then we had a forfeit game, and now then the winter quiz, and now we're going to have a forfeit game. It's kind of a way of keeping the momentum up, so when the next quiz happens, people will be like, yeah, I'm really ready for this quiz, and then you can start leaning into that. So the audience's expectation, how can I use that just to raise a little bit more money for charity? So people may notice in the first quiz I had, you can buy your team a point, and I think it was like for $10 or something like that. And then the second one, because I knew that had raised some money, I wanted to be like, let's see if we can raise more money with that. So I had rounds where I had a whole bunch of reasons if the scoring wasn't quite level, because that's the other thing. When you're putting on a show as a quiz, I wanted the scores, and if they did both times quite naturally stick close to one another. You don't want one team running away with it. But I had fallbacks like, okay, any donated points are now worth double or triple by the audience or stuff, because that's not only is it a good way to fundraise, but it's also a good way for people to put money into the underdog to level the scores a bit more.
Right.
It's not quite as open and transparent a quiz as people think, but it's also keeping that competitive nature, balancing the two up, what makes a good show versus what makes a fair quiz and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Salva present, that was my favorite meme that came out of it, was
That's so
the
good.
Sal's audio bad and Salva Pres.
One
but yeah,
thing,
it's
sorry. One thing I love, just to touch on the audio bad, is I love that Zelda, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, everybody. All right, before I say what I was going to, let's welcome in the raiders. Zell Dangerous, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, everybody. My name's KL, and today I'm joined by KingArgaroth and Tugboet. We're talking everything stream team, event planning, all the stages, everything that kind of goes into these events. We're just having a chit chat about that. So welcome in, have a seat, get a drink, and cozy on in as we talk about how much fun event planning is. Truly, truly fun. But we're talking about everything. So welcome in, everyone. Zell, thank you so much for bringing your community over. We appreciate it very much. So with the audio bad, I love that something that was like a meme from an event has now become something bigger. Like, so I do movies with my community every week, and I added the audio bad emote to my Discord server. And as you guys, if any of you have streamed in Discord, you probably know that sometimes the audio just goes wonky. It's a Discord thing. It's out of our control. All you got to do is just stop streaming and then rebroadcast, and it's no big deal. But I've literally just told my community, I'm like, as soon as the audio goes like that, just put that emote in the chat and I'll, and so, because before people would just type something like, oh, the audio has gone funky or whatever. And now that I have that emote, I'm like, that's brilliant. Just put it in. I have it on BTTV as well for my own stream in case my audio ever goes bad. So I love that something so, I love that we just took a thing like that and it's just become something bigger than just the meme for that one event.
It reminds me of the thing I mentioned earlier, when getting the audience to feel part of it, keeping those memes alive. If you look at the shoeies from the first one, they grew to be something that became very representative of the Nook out of no reason, because we all started putting shoeies as our donation goals, and those donation goals started getting smashed. So a lot of us ended up doing shoeies on stream, but that kind of in-joke with the audience really feeds an event. And it's something I use in theatre as well. When I'm directing a show, one of my top priorities is to make memories. It doesn't matter how good a show is, if you don't have those memorable moments, you will forget about it. You want to be a show that's talked about years after. And it's the same with the charity event. It could be a really good event and you will forget it, but making those memories, having something stand out like a shoey, and then feeding that to keep it alive. The audio bad meme, feed it, keep it alive, and then it grows and it grows and it grows. And I just think that's a lovely part of the community as a whole, is we are able to pick up those, and not necessarily us, it can just be the community. The Nook spam with the Pride hearts just became a thing from the first get-go with the summer charity, and that is now, it's almost, I don't want to call it a bit of branding for the Nook, but we see it whenever there is.
It is now.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, that goes into marketing too. Like you said, like keeping the memes alive, and even the Pride hearts, that just keeping those references alive works in marketing, keeping people thinking about those events. Even as we go into lulls in between events, it keeps it in the front of your mind and it keeps it going, particularly on the internet and on Twitch. In the 2020s, things happen and 3 days later they're gone. It's just there's so much other stuff going on. It's just gone out of your mind. So you need those constant little pings and reminders that, oh yeah, this happened. That was so great. Let's do that again. And those little memes and stuff become exceptional marketing. It's
Yeah.
really, really fun.
Yeah, for sure. And even if a meme isn't like event wide, like the audio bad became, right? Or the pride hearts or whatever that was used in everybody's stream. Like some of us as individuals even had like little memes created for ourselves in our community that, people remember, like my stream during the during the Nook Summer Charity event. Like I had so many tech problems in that stream with the internet dropping and Twitch dropping me, and then I had this like random mystery song that kept playing that I couldn't figure out where it was coming from, and it was like a 10-minute ordeal trying to figure it out. And that just became like the highlight of the stream, was just this big error, but you run with it, and
That was one of the highlights of the entire event for me. Like on top of all these audio problems, just a song that would just randomly play, driving everybody crazy. Oh, it was so funny.
Yeah, that was fun. I still have that highlighted on my channel because I don't ever want to get rid of it. I sometimes go back and watch it just to laugh at myself, and because you highlight it, chat stays there, which is the best part, because chat completely made that moment like it was so wonderful. One thing that I also want to talk about with just while we're on the topic of planning is, so we talked a lot about planning the event as a whole, but I think we need to talk about the importance of us as streamers participating in the event, especially with a charity event, our own individual goals and things that we commit to when our community reaches our individual goal for the charity event. Because, there were so many of us involved and yeah, we've got the team goal, but, I think we had that channel in our Discord, and there was we all brainstormed and planned out together. Like we threw ideas out, all of us, to try and figure out what are we all individually going to commit to for this event. And a lot of work goes into that too. Like I remember sitting and struggling to think of ideas on what I could do for my community when you hit X number of dollars. And then Zell put a question in the chat earlier about is it better to smash goals or not reach goals? I feel like streamers are always lowballing goals, and I wonder how intentional it is. Let's talk about that.
So with goals, setting an unattainable goal is just as bad as setting a goal that's too low. You need to kind of find that sweet spot, that one that feels attainable, but not easily gettable. Like you have to push for it and you have to hit it. And that's where we typically lowball stuff because we want to make sure that we hit that primary goal, and that's where stretch goals come in. So don't be afraid to set up stretch goals, and you can have stretch goals that go into ridiculous numbers because they're just stretch goals. It's not necessarily something that you want to hit, but that initial number, that first number, is typically something that you want to really strive for, and that takes kind of knowing the engagement of your community and just what your expectations are. And a lot of the time, the first time you do it, you don't really know what that is. And then your community dumps $50,000 at your lap. So then you just don't understand why that happened. So there's a setting expectations and trying to set attainable but maybe a little challenging goal, but then also being able to pivot and adjust as you blow through goals. For instance, raise 5 times the number of dollars that you expected to. So having flexible goals, having stretch goals are important. But setting that initial goal it's tough. it is difficult. Um, I don't know
Yeah.
that we've had great luck with it, but we're getting better, I think.
Not just the team goals, but yeah, like even individually, like, you know, there were a few of us that completely smashed over and above, and then there were some of us that didn't. Like as a team overall, yeah, we just completely knocked it out of the park. But like personally, I had a few like, you know, main goals. And then I think I had 2 stretch goals. And with the stretch goals, I believe I hit one of them, but then not the other one. So I feel like for myself personally, like, you know, when we get to this year's summer event, you know, I'll probably do like about the same as I did personally. But I mean, it's going to be different for everybody. Like, I think we're all going to sit here and kind of reflect back on last year and go, okay, what did we offer? Like, what were the rewards for hitting dollar amounts? But at the same time, it's tricky because times are changing and this summer might be way different than last summer in terms of just like world events and people's financial situations and all of that too. And so there's like, at the end of the day, I mean, you set goals, but you never know what's going to happen at the end.
I think setting goals is something only prior context can really push. Like I had done charity streams before, so I kind of knew what my community could do, and then I added a little bit for the wider like Nook community. But I think basing it on what you're wouldn't if you've never done a charity event before, you might not know how much your community can raise. There are some communities that may be a bit more flexible with how much they raise versus some communities which may not. And there's so many different factors, world events, etc., that come into it. I think when it comes to me setting my goal, so I ended up, I think I had my main goal and then double that was the final stretch goal. But also, you notice a lot when it's for charity, I have no shame in like pushing that raising money side. Whereas if it was ever for me, I get really humble. I don't like
Right.
taking money from my community. But as soon as it's charity, it frees you up to be a bit more. Well, what do my community really want? And even now, some of the stuff that I've got in mind for if I do have stretch goals, I might tease something out and just gauge someone. So, for example, my top stretch goal was for me to shave my entire head, beard. But it was shave head and shave beard were my stretch goals. I ended up beating both of that, and I know that had been a running joke in my community for a while. Was if I shave my head, people were like, "I think it will look really good on you." So I kind of knew that was my stretch goal because we'd already established in my community that a lot of people were, yeah, do it. That could be really good. And I think that is now fed into me when I'm planning my next events. It's do some people in my community have a preference for something? Have I just let slip of the tongue and then seen how much chat engagement there is?
Mhm.
Because it's super interesting because once you've got that tease, it can be really hard to go, okay, I know what I'm going to do. For example, if I was to throw out in my next one, um, do like I'd almost an auction between shave the head or grow the head, something like that. So if my community are quite split on a topic, that can happen. Or if you're someone who never shaves, or someone who always shaves, and then you grow a bit of beard, and half of the chat are like, "That beard really suits you," and then the other half are like, "Oh my god, you need to shave." You can play from that because you can go, "Well, I know what my next charity is, like a month without shaving," or something like that. So I think a lot of it just comes down to knowing your community, knowing world events, knowing a lot of things like that, and just being a bit sensible and not afraid to go to where you want, and just being a bit market savvy about it as well, maybe.
Yeah. Cool. I'm glad we talked about that. Anything else to add with like the goal setting or like events? Like goal rewards?
I think King covered it well. going back to the meme thing, pick up on memes that your community has and then try to lean into those. Those are always good goals to set. Or if there's a particular game or something that your community has always been harping on you to play and it's just not something that you want to do, that can also be a good goal. If you are a chilled, laid back sim player, you can have a goal to play Call of Duty like JJM Jim did recently.
That was so great.
So yeah, so there's a lot of fun stuff that you can do that a lot of times it's that out of character stuff, those fun one-off things that can really engage your community. So
Yeah.
I mean, Tug, what game are you currently playing?
I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, Stardew Valley was a charity game for me. And after last week, it's now my most streamed game ever. So yeah, it's that's definitely something that can up engagement on your stream. So
yeah, my main, like my top base goal, like before I created the stretch goals, was to play a horror game for the first time. I never getting into streaming, I kind of like had set in my mind, like I don't want to play a horror game. I probably never will. And then of course, then you get involved in a charity event. It's like, well, that would be a really good reward for people, right? To incentivize. And then I just said a horror game, and then I allowed my community to vote. Like I first got suggestions from them, and then once I had, a few games, then I created a poll and was like, okay, you guys decide what I play.
Sweet summer child.
And then it was Outlast. And yeah, that was fun. Perfect. All right. Well, we've talked a lot about the planning stage, the delegation. A big part of what happens with these events is general marketing and getting the word out. And Tug, I feel like this is your area of expertise with kind of everything Nook event.
Marketing an event and getting the word out is kind of as delicate a balance as setting a goal. You don't want to get spammy with it, but like I mentioned, with just keeping people's minds on it. If you've ever mentioned an event or a change to your schedule or something on stream, you'll know that 10 minutes later somebody be like, oh wait, you're not streaming tomorrow. And you just constantly have to like give those little reminders and stuff. And it's very similar when you're when you have an event upcoming, and taking that marketing and making it seem organic and not spammy is a difficult thing to do. We've done a couple different we've done it a couple different ways for the two charity events. We had the summer charity festival. We had Chubex made up that awesome poster, and people took the little pieces and art from that poster and used them on their streams, and just had that continuity through the event and through everybody's promotional stuff, so that each person was having their own little charity stream, but there were segments that tied back to promote the main goal. So that's one thing. And then with the holiday charity event that we did one post a week where we announced like, hey, on this day, December 19th, something's happening. And then the next week, it was December 19th. What was it? Like 20 people. Like we teased out little pieces, basically made a promo image and then added bits and pieces to it each week leading up to that event. So getting word out and then keeping people aware that it's coming. For instance, we have season 2 of The Big Dig is coming up in 2 weeks from Monday. So we're still 2 weeks away from the event, but we've been talking about it for like a month now. So it's just getting that news out there. And even yesterday on my stream, I mentioned Big Dig season 2, and somebody was like, oh, you're doing another one. Like it doesn't matter how much inundation you do with a message, you're always going to pick up like 1 or 2 new people who missed all the messaging before. So it's keeping the notice of the event rolling without being Geico, essentially, is not just constant inundation and obliterating your eyeballs with the content about it, but just gentle, constant little reminders that something's coming. Here's a bit. Here's a bit.
Yeah.
Here's a bit. We have, like I said, the big dig starts 2 weeks from Monday. So on Monday, we have a new promo thing that's going out for the big dig. So stay tuned for that. Stuff like that. That little bit and piece. Like, you can have an event coming and not tell anybody what it is, not give them any promo material. Just be like, hey, you know what? We got something coming up on February 15th. I think you're going to like it. And just mention that so that you get a little bit of word of mouth, a little bit of excitement brewing before they even know what it is. So that kind of marketing, like, we kind of lean more towards into that, like, kind of feeding out little bits and pieces here and there. And then as it gets closer, you start to ramp that up. And you go from like once a week or once every other week to like every day or every other day, you're mentioning something. And as you get closer and closer, there's more and more messaging that comes out, and you start pushing it more and more. You get your participants to talk about it every single day. You get everybody posting stuff every single day, and you start to build up and roll into the event so that you have a big buildup, and then when you hit the event, you hit the ground running. You're not starting the event and trying to get people to come in. Everybody knows when it starts. Everybody knows what's coming, and they're excited for it. So
Yeah.
it's a constant balancing act, but it's worth it in the end if you balance it correctly.
Right. The teasing that you did for the winter event was beautiful. It was really well done. It was awesome to be able to go in and retweet those every time and just be like, this is coming, but we're still not telling you fully what it is. And like, yeah, just that I think keeps up momentum and excitement around the event, because then people are just like looking forward to getting a little bit more.
Right.
And like, oh, what is this? Like, yeah, that was really well done.
It's also important to have consistency of message. So whether that's using a hashtag like Big Dig Energy for the Big Dig, whether that's using like Chubex's artwork for the summer charity event where everybody puts out everybody put out their charity goals on basically the template that Chubex made. So there was consistency of imagery across all of the tweets, consistency of message, formatting the message, things like that. Creating that consistency makes it seem less like there's 24 different people doing one thing to there's a team of people doing one thing that is consistent. I mean, it was right down to like I made for both of our events, I made alerts so that the donation alert was consistent across every stream, so that you knew when that alert goes off what was happening if you were going from stream to stream to stream. Because if you have one person has a heartfelt lovey-dovey alert, and then you go to the next person and it's like SpongeBob screaming, you lose that consistency, and you like, that was a donation, okay. Whereas if you have the same imagery and the same presentation from person to person, it creates that flow and consistency and connects all of the entire event together as one package.
Yeah. I also love that Jimbles had done kind of like his own version of that sound, and then a few of us ran with that as the sound alert in our streams. That was really well done too. But yeah, that consistency is good. Also, do you schedule every single like Nook tweet just about, or like how valuable is scheduling Twitter or tweets on Twitter?
So we can do, honestly, we should do better with that. There are prime times for posting on social media. Sometimes we hit those. If there are more important tweets, if we're closer to events, we will try and hit those prime time windows. We have with the team account, we have the thankful ability that we have high engagement with the account with people from the team. So while the account has 700 some odd followers, if everybody on the team retweets it and engages with it, that amplifies it out, so that we go from, instead of hoping for 700 impressions, we are getting more like 7,000 impressions. There are particular windows, and there's tons and tons and tons of YouTube videos and write-ups of the best time to post and manage your social media. So you can check the times for that. Primarily, it mostly goes by U.S. time.
Right.
In the evening, U.S. time is typically like your prime time for posting media stuff. So you can aim for those windows, but it also depends on the content and it depends on what you're looking for. So like I said, we try to hit those windows when we're closer to an event and when we're really pushing and trying to get to maximize our engagement. But because we have so many people from all over the world that engage with our content, it kind of keeps it fresh, and we have that advantage going for us. So yes and no.
Mhm.
We do it and we don't.
I feel like during the event, or during our events, especially when they're going over something like 100 hours, probably makes more sense to schedule like when the transitions happen, right, from streamer to streamer. Just get those all in a
Yeah.
list and have them auto
Yeah, so
scheduled
like
out.
that would be the day of the event.
Right.
You have some idea, you have them drafted, and then the day of the event, once you know that the people who are supposed to take part are going to take part, then you can schedule those. Like if you're
Yeah.
doing live tweets for each transition, for each raid, those will be scheduled so that that's easier, so that you don't have to make sure that you hit it at the right time.
Yeah.
Those are pretty easy to schedule out. But the
It's
more
smart to do
organic
that.
tweets are generally not scheduled.
Okay, cool. It's good to use a balance of both. Anything else you want to talk about with marketing or getting the word out? I feel like you've covered a good amount.
I think one part of marketing that we have missed out that is so apparent in our media of Twitch is word of mouth, because it's not directly seeable as word of mouth, because no one goes to their friends and goes, "Oh, you should check this stream out." But word of mouth is much more visible in chat. And I think during the summer charity festival, particularly, we had such a strong word of mouth because there were so many people who were throwing in the heart messages. The raids became a big event, and what chat kind of created was this mentality of, we are all really happy to be here and to be witnessing this, and created a unity amongst each other. I know so many members of chat who made friends from that event because they saw someone from another community and like they sat through it. It was a massive event, and if chat hadn't have been that hyped and that involving everyone in it, then we wouldn't have had that kind of, you want to be here during the event. And it's easy for something, particularly 100 hours of streaming, it's easy to hype it up, kick it off with a huge bang, and then slowly watch the numbers down. And like naturally, the numbers are going to fluctuate as some people go to bed. But it was apparent, like you'd get rises back up to levels, you'd get it softening in the dead, like the graveyard hours, and then coming straight back up. People were logging on and personally going to their PC to catch up with what they missed. And I think a big part of that was the clips we had. There were a lot of our mod teams who were capturing memorable moments and throwing them out into Discords. So anyone who did miss it felt like they weren't missing out. And it created this atmosphere of, we don't want to miss out what's happening here. So we're going to keep being there. And I think that's really good in terms of live marketing. If we take some of the bigger stream marathons, like the Games Done Quick event, what they can sometimes have is lulls in the midweek, because a lot of people watch the first couple of days and a lot of people watch the last day, but they can kind of lull in that. And it's really nice to be able to have one entire community who are pushing that, because you don't get that in the huge events, because of course you can't have 30,000 people all pulling together.
Right.
But I think we take advantage of our close-knit community in that, and they absolutely humble us by being able to generate that kind of thing. And it's very unique. And let's say 10 years time, the Nook is a huge empire taken on Twitch, we would struggle to have that same pull with the chat, just because it may become unobtainable. But it's definitely a strength of ours at the moment. And It's super, like, I never expected it to pop up.
Honestly, I
Just
think a lot of that comes down to the moderator teams that we have on each of our channels and that come across from stream to stream. And like our mod teams for both charity events were absolutely incredible. Like in our team Discord, we have a channel where we invite all of our moderators to so that they can coordinate with each other for events and other things. And having the moderators drive chat, I mean, it's just like your regular Twitch chat. You know, your moderators set the expectation for chat behavior, right? So the moderators helped to steer that. You know, the Pride Hearts around the Nook was started by our moderators, and that took off. And having engagement from your moderators, if you're a streamer and you're running a chat and you're running a charity event, getting engagement from your moderators is so important. They are the backbone of Twitch, and none of the events that we have run could go off the way that they have without complete buy-in and support from our mod teams, because they drive so much of what our channels are. So absolutely, big time lean on your moderators and get them engaged with the event too, because that feeds into what King was talking about. That gets chat involved, that gets that engagement up by using your moderators.
That and you know, going back to the summer charity event, like, you know, we had our moderators jump in for streamers that they didn't mod for. If that streamer was like, hey, I actually don't have all of my mods available for my stream today, can anyone just jump in for today just to help out? And anytime that's been asked, you get like 5+ people almost immediately going, yeah, I'll help. So yeah, just big shout out to all of our moderators. You guys are the real G's. And these events would not be possible
Pun
without
intended.
you. Oh, I didn't even realize. I was like, pun? What? Hi, G. How's it going? I also wanted to touch on King, you mentioned like clips and stuff during the Nook Summer Charity Festival, like even talking about the Big Dig, like you know, yeah, that one is going over a longer period of time, but we got the same energy with the Big Dig where, you know, people don't want to miss out on those live because, you know, is that person going to die today? Like, what are they going to build? And you know, you want to be there for it. And then if you end up missing out, then you watch a clip and you're like, oh man, I'm so bummed I missed that live. Right now, I mean, it's impossible to watch every single stream live the whole way through, but I like that we've generated that same kind of excitement around an event, as long as that one is, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like every day
And
for weeks.
I think it's telling that I know during my stream, and I'm sure during so many Nookian streams, if another person was streaming the Big Dig and they died, we knew. It was whispered, it was mentioned in chat, and it became a thing. And that's word of mouth. So even the people who aren't watching the event know that the event is going on and know the key moments that happen during it. And that is absolutely glorious in terms of marketing, because someone else might go, wait, what do you mean they die? I mean, to be fair, I got a whisper from one of my mods during my stream, which was like, I don't know if you heard, but Hecky died today. And I had to take a break because I forgot he meant during the Big Dig. I was just like, what's happened? And then it dawned on me.
Wow.
But like,
no,
the fact that we all knew what was going on in the Big Dig whilst not doing it, it didn't distract from our stream.
within
It
2
just
minutes.
became a known thing. Yeah. I think that shows just how effective, like, the marketing, the word of mouth can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing with marketing too that we haven't touched on that I just thought of was Tug, you mentioned like consistency with like the branding, like the visuals and your alert that you made, right? Well, we all had the same commands as well in our chat, and that was also very important because
Yep.
like during my segment, for example, like I had a username come in that I had never seen before, and they put in one of the commands that we had set up for the Nook Summer Charity Festival. And so that immediately told me, like, oh, they've clearly been in someone else's stream during this festival, and now they're here in mine, and they're looking for, that particular
Right.
information,
Yeah,
right?
consistency of messaging. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really important too, is just having everybody on the same page with that and using the same commands, and then that way people know. But it sucks when your bot breaks and when you're live and they don't work, but that's a whole other issue. Well, we kind of started, I feel like the marketing, getting the word out, kind of blended into the next topic, which is actually like talking about when the event is happening, whether it's the day or the weekend. We talked a lot already about like moderation and how crucial and important that is in the actual event when it's going on. King, you've talked a lot already about like your hosting, but I'd still kind of, we talked more about the planning part of it, but I'd love to just know more about like in the moment, kind of like the day or the weekend of like, you hosted 2 back-to-back during the winter charity event that we just did, which I applaud you for, because holy man, like 8 hours in a row, and that's just the live time.
Mm-hmm. That was quite difficult, but luckily I've been able to prepare myself. So when you've spent as long being part of the planning process of both the events, was it's again, I liken it to my theatre directing, because that's where I put just as much effort into on the Twitch thing. As soon as show week starts, you have this big wave of relief, like, oh, it's all done, it's underway, it's now out of my control. Whatever happens, happens, and it's this huge cathartic sense. And then when it comes back to your turn, you're like, oh no, I've got to go again. But hosting these events, when it's something like the quiz, I had to make the choice very just for the sake of entertainment, was to not really acknowledge my chat. I acknowledge them. I might pick the odd comment. I might appreciate the chat as a whole, but I can't really respond to people because it would take away from it. So it's a case of making sure that your chat know that, and frequently mentioning, I'm not going to be as engaging with chat. Similar to how we did at the start of this podcast.
Right.
KL, you informed chat that you might not be engaging as much, and then you explained it, and then you moved on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's how can you get that? It's making sure that chat do feel engaged, because it's the beauty of Twitch. So in the team events, I had them being able to give answers in the quiz events, being able to donate to help points, so you can read that out. You can read out donations. Similar in the charity, I GM'd a game. And again, that's very difficult to engage with chat whilst trying to keep 5 players and on top of donations coming in. So I decided the only way I would do it as part of a charity event, because I regularly GM games on my stream, and the thing that always hits me as soon as I hit end stream is I didn't talk to chat enough. And that's my favorite part of streaming, is talking to my community. But when you're trying to manage a group of players, you've got to put their needs as well as chat's needs. And even though they're all aware you're streaming, you can't spend as much time talking to them as you can. So I created a system where via donations to charity, the chat can interact with the game, so it makes them feel present in there. And I think that's part of hosting, is how can you make, when it's event and you realistically cannot do that, do you hire in someone to look at chat? So during the competitive games tournament at the end of the last festival, there were 3 commentators, which actually meant that someone could take time to read chat, pick out certain comments, and relay that to the other 2. There was some good delegation that could have happened there.
Right.
If you're doing an event such as a quiz, you won't be able to, and you can't really do that. So how can you engage them? There's so many different events where you may not be able to participate with chat, and that they need to feel involved. So a lot of hosting is just is learning to say no and accept your limits. Like, I knew full well I was not going to be able to engage with chat, and that's just something I didn't try, because otherwise I would have been pulled in too many directions.
Right.
So where possible, don't be afraid to relinquish control, and then get creative with how you can replicate that feeling of it. And I think mods are a big part of that. We talked about them before, but
Yeah.
having mods be able to just have a conversation with people in chat, which was absolutely wonderful. During the speedrunners tournament, Avi's just said in chat, we had Zelda update a document that showed where the tournament was going and stuff like that. Because speedrunners was again a very hard event to be able to talk to chat between games, sure, but during the games, it was just everyone has to sit back and watch it. So it's just a case of, if you're going to host an event that isn't just you, it involves a lot of other people. And this is, you could even dial this back to co-op streams, even having one more person on your stream. Find something that works for you and accept that you may not be as engaging with chat, or you may not be as engaging with that other person. Find that balance that works. Like, personally, I've spoken to this, like, when I'm doing co-op, I like to have push to talk. So if there's 3 streamers all streaming the same games on their own channels, I don't like the other players hearing me talk to my chat, and I don't like hearing other players talk to their chat. But some people like to get that all involved and will have all 3 chats up and will engage with other people's. It's all about preference and just completely accepting that stuff. And because I know Twiggy's one of the people who does the opposite to me, and it's just learning when that works and when it doesn't.
Yep.
Yeah, and that comes down to trial and error. Events are trial and error. The speedrunners was a good event for us to learn from. We didn't prep enough for that, and we kind of learned from that event, and will continue to grow, because there's a lot of different things that can go wrong that you never think about until you're in it and you go, oh yeah, we should have done that. You know, and it's being able to adapt and then learning from it and doing better the next time. That's a lot of what it comes down to.
I just want to go back up to Ananda's comment earlier where she called out King hosting the quiz and the ZND, that was all him and that no one else could have hosted, because those were, especially the ZND, was literally King's creation. So just praising King highly because of that, not just because of the 8-hour stint being taxing in itself, but the hours of prep for both, because those were 100% your things. So massive shout out to you, King, for that. One thing that I wanted to bring up quickly was kind of just going back to the whole co-op thing. I think the beauty of co-op streams is, yes, whichever streamer decides to host it has a lot of work, getting everybody on camera if that's what they're going to do. Like, just thinking back to when I was on Bloody Drongo's stream for the Ultimate Chicken Horse, like, he had us all on camera in each corner of his overlay. A co-op stream like that is really nice because, obviously Drongo didn't stop engaging with his chat, and he shouldn't. With a game like that, you don't have to stop engaging with chat. But the nice thing with having, 3 of us there playing is we all have his stream up too, and we're all reading chat. So, you've got now 3 other people that can help you not miss messages from people in chat, and also directly engage with people. And that's kind of one of my favorite things about co-op streaming is I actually really enjoy being a guest on someone else's stream. Because I can still engage with chat and feel like I'm a streamer, but not have any of
It's the fun part of streaming without the responsibility.
Exactly. And super fun. And then, co-op events are so much fun too with events like this because, Drongo did a really great thing where he incentivized donations to change aspects of our game for all 4 of us, make us bigger or smaller, more gravity, less gravity, and that was super fun. And we had a lot of people throw in money that way to just completely change the game for all 4 of us. And those types of events are for me personally, some of my favorites, because I don't know that I feel comfortable enough to ever like jump in on like the team quiz, for example. Like I just have weird anxiety around that, for example. But I'm happy to jump in with something a little bit more, in my mind, low key, like a game like that, with a few of my Nook members. But and Abby makes a good point. Like some people really like streams where the guests are not also streaming, where it's only one of them and the 3 people are just on to play the game. Yeah, that can be really interesting to watch too, for sure. I agree with you. One thing I also wanted to call out during the event, and we've kind of talked about this before, but more so for the moderators. I kind of want to just give a nod to the fellow Nookians and then just the communities, like the viewers that don't stream themselves or maybe aren't mods, but are just there participating, watching. Like our events would not have been as successful as they have been if it wasn't for like our team supporting one another by way of a view or like engaging in chat. And then also just like the community themselves just rallying up together. Like, you know, seeing how many viewers picked up on the whole like Nook with the pride heart hands and copying and pasting those. And like, you know, I'm pretty sure during the festival, like I had one of my viewers in Discord like ask like, hey, can we pin that message somewhere so that it's easily grabbable for copying and pasting into the various chats, right? Because sometimes copying and pasting the message directly from Twitch chat can be very hit and miss, especially if the chat is going like crazy. And typically when that message was being posted, chat was moving like crazy. It's hard to grab it. So like I know for me, like I had that pinned in my Discord somewhere, but and I think just high engagement like that, it just the result of that is everything we've talked about. The planning, the hype up, the marketing, the getting the mods really involved, and just like, yeah, everything we've talked about, like that ends up then resulting in that huge engagement and participation. Really lovely. It's one of the best things about these festivals for me is just seeing how many people get involved and how many people get excited to watch. So for all of you watching that participated so much in these, thank you so much for getting excited about our events and being a part of it.
Absolutely.
Nook fam, our best fam.
Yep. Totally. And now if Twitch ever makes teams better, fingers crossed, hopefully maybe one day, I feel like anything that they could implement would just help out even more with our stream team events.
Yeah, because it's easy for us to be like, well, I say it's easy. We're as much as we're praising the mods, it wasn't. There's so many people who subscribe to the team in general and still follow that vibe, and I think that'd be something I'd like to see in Twitch is some kind of way that you can follow a team.
Yeah.
So then you can have the Nook community rather than it being because as much as it is the communities of every streamer as well, it'd be really nice that way.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could follow a team and then when you go to your Twitch following, you've got like the individual streamers that you follow, and then there's a separate section maybe that's like, oh, the Nook team, who is live right now for the Nook team, instead of having to go to the team's page. Like that would be awesome. Or even I'm just thinking like, you know, if a team emote ever becomes a thing, right? Like then that's something that, you know, we can end up spamming in chats because then everybody has access to it. Yeah, there's so much that hopefully will come down the pipe one day that would, for teams, that will then just help us with these events. Anything else to add to the actual like when the event is happening that we think that maybe we missed?
Enjoy it.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
So
have fun during it.
Before the Nook charity relay, Ananda and I organized a raid relay for Christmas, which Tug and Twiggy were involved in, as well as several streamers. And I don't think I know I personally probably didn't enjoy that as much as I should have. I barely slept. It was 72 hours. I just didn't sleep really during it. I watched every stream, but I was always on edge. Luckily, I like the fact that I was on edge meant that we were able to sort out some issues that happened during it. But the fact is, I didn't actually sit back and enjoy it. I watched everything, waiting for something wrong to happen, and I don't think that was the right way to approach it.
Mhm.
And I think if you've worked hard on an event, it can be very hard to switch that off until the curtains close.
Yeah.
But with the Nook one, because we'd done it before, I was able just to sit back and go, whatever happens, we've got it.
Yeah.
And as soon as you see how engaging and supportive the community were, it's like no one will mind a technical hitch. Everyone will be there for support. I mean, KL, you had technical issues during your stream,
Oh, so
and
many.
we started leaning on that, and we
Mhm.
all loved it because you just soldiered on, and we all knew it was happening. And if that had been something that hadn't had the kind of support, then maybe. But even when disaster strikes like that, the best will be made of it because we've got a good team and we've got a good bunch of people who
Yeah.
are involved. So
And in
I
the
just
end,
think,
the best was made of it. Like, despite all those issues, like I had a couple people say that it was one of the best streams that they'd ever been in,
yeah,
which then made me feel really good. And I was like, yeah, it ended up working out for the best. And my internet has changed since then now, so I don't anticipate that I'll ever have that many issues
mhm.
again during an event. But still, it's good to know that like if that were to happen, at least I know it's not going to go the way. Like it's not going to go like a huge. It's not going to be a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm lazy.
I mean,
we could get it set up.
I blame the mods of this channel. Oh wait, no, I'm a mod of this channel. I take that back.
I was just about to say. All right. The last big topic of this to chat about is the post-event work. You've got a big event that's so massive and successful, and you think that things would just be done, but that's not the case.
So this is something when you're running a team event and when you've got a team of people who have been brought together rather than have grown together. So something like a stream team on Twitch, for example. Something I maintained in the planning process, in the duration and in the post process was to make sure that the people who couldn't be involved felt involved
Mm-hmm.
or felt in the loop and stuff like that. That was something I've been part of events in real life, shows and stuff, where in the debriefs, so when you're wrapping up, you can find that some people are unhappy and bring things up that they never had the chance to. And often, if someone feels left out, that like a big group of the team got to do this, but they couldn't or they didn't or whatever, it can quickly feel like there's a clique forming. So that was something I didn't want to see happen because I've seen it take down really strong units before. So I know that something I was doing was messaging the people who couldn't be involved and either finding roles in ways they could be involved or just getting some honest feedback from them and being like, hey, how do you feel like you've missed out? How can we improve this in the future? And things like that, and trying to keep it as anonymous as possible. And I'll do that in any event I'm part of because I've seen it bad happen in literally any team situation. If I see someone like who maybe can't join in for whatever reasons, it's being able to talk to them and being like, okay, well, let's make this. And it's similar if we look at the big dig. A lot of people now that have been given basically everyone who applied who wasn't part of the big dig last season. I think I don't want to say everyone because I don't know this, but and there's a lot of new faces in there, and that's really good because you don't want the same people, no matter how brilliant something is. You don't want the same people doing the same
Right.
stuff because then it can really feel very, oh well, that's favoritism, and obviously we're not the kind of team who would view it that way. But it's nice to be able to nip that in the butt, in the butt, in the bud.
Everybody who
But
didn't take part in season 1 that wanted to take part in season 2 got priority slot. So it's 10 of the 14 didn't take part in season 1. So
which is amazing. I'm so excited for
yeah.
this season like just for that.
As far as other post-event work goes, something that's good to do, and this kind of goes back to marketing, particularly if it's something like our summer event that is going to be a repeated event or something that's going to happen frequently, is to assemble clips, highlights, put that stuff together, and put out a look back, put out celebration posts, put out just stuff to keep the event in people's minds and to remind them that there's more coming. Putting out that postmortem can help bring the community together again. Just remembering, because particularly with the summer event, it was 100 hours of streams. No one was able, I mean, almost, I don't think anybody was able to stay awake and engaged for 100 straight hours.
No.
So seeing some of those highlights, and some people will have missed some moments. So when you see that, it engages and gets people talking about the event more. So that kind of loops back to marketing. So the postmortem stuff is very, very important from that aspect, and then also reviewing things honestly that did and didn't work.
Yep.
That's probably the hardest part: being honest with yourself, being honest with each other about what worked and what didn't, and then trying to figure out how to address that going forward. And those can sometimes be very difficult conversations, but they're conversations that need to happen if you want to grow and get better and do better on the next one. So
Yeah, for sure. And then also too, like, making that post-event media, like the clips and the highlights all together, like not only is that used to like look back and the recap of what happened, but then all that stuff is then used for marketing for the next one, right? And it's super easy then to just grab those clips and highlights and go, hey, we're doing another one of these, like, yeah, let's look back on the last one. And then it drums up memories and gets you excited again, because then you think back to the previous event and remember how fun it was and how awesome it was, and then you get really excited for the next one, because it's just going to be more of that, just more shenanigans and more wholesomeness and more emotions and fun.
yeah, and quick shout out to Hampy,
Yeah.
Hampsh, who did pretty much all of the promo videos and recap videos and stuff for the summer charity event. Just unbelievably talented and ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And then another thing that goes into the post-event work is, for all of us individual streamers, setting these charity goals, right? And, if you're setting goals for yourself that are going to be future things, right? So like, I'll play X game, or I'll do X thing, or blah, blah, blah. Then that is obviously going to be post-event work. And, there was a few streamers on the team that I think even still recently have just fulfilled some of the goals that they had set for the charity event. I know some of us knocked some off pretty quick, but they're depending on what it was. I mean, sometimes you just need a little bit more time to get that prepared and set up. But yeah, I think people forget about that part of it that ends up being a huge amount of the post-event work for stuff like this.
Yeah, like editing together massively difficult videos that you promised as a team. Yeah.
That are coming.
Yeah. It's that kind of thing, that payoff is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to like in the heat of the moment being like, oh man, we need more stretch goals. Let's do this. That sounds awesome. Making not only setting an attainable goal, circling back to setting goals, but making sure that it's something that you can deliver on. And if you can't, then make sure that you communicate that and try to figure out something that you can supplement. It's that's a balancing act too, because you don't want people to feel like they got cheated out of something,
Right.
even though it's for charity. There's still like that expectation. So
Yeah,
planning,
for sure.
plan your stretch goals in advance with things that you know you can do in a reasonable time frame.
Yeah.
Not
And that's
5 minutes before you post it.
yeah. And that's kind of
I've
like
seen-
that's a big takeaway for this like post event work is it's so important to talk about the event itself and just get everybody's feedback together because you know, this is going back to when we like probably an hour ago we were talking about it, but you know, you're always gonna learn from, like, I mean, that was our first event and it went a direction that none of us were expecting or planned for at all, right? So now that we kind of have one under our belts and then now we have the winter one as well, like, you know, it's nice because now we can really reflect on that and then take forward like the good parts and then adjust kind of the stuff that like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done it that way or anything. Like, it's just going to be it's so valuable that when an event is over to talk about all that stuff. And I love that our team generally is not afraid to bring up the constructive criticism part of it. Like, nobody gets offended by things here if someone expresses any sort of criticism about something. I love that we're an open book that way. And so for teams that are planning events, yeah, make sure that you guys already have that established because it's very important for an event. Any other post-event work besides like looking back on the event itself, delivering on
I think
goals?
that's really it. Just
Yeah.
making sure to capitalize on the event, using that event to go forward into other stuff, using that to springboard yourself into other stuff, both with lessons learned and with the content that you created to use that to move forward. And just really just making sure that you're always moving forward. There's always something that can be improved.
Yeah.
No matter how good the event goes, give yourself a few days to decompress, review it, and then come back to it and take a good, hard, honest look at what you created. And like I mentioned before, being honest with yourself, being honest with each other about what you did and what you think you can do better is a really, really big part of not only growing as a person, but growing as a stream team, growing as a streamer, growing forward in whatever it is that you're doing. Violet.
Bye.
Hi, bye.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Thank you so much for the raid. For those all coming in the raid, welcome into the NookCast. I'm KL. I'm hosting today's episode with KingArgaroth and Tugboet. We are talking about stream team event planning, everything involved in just making events, whether they're charity events or just like fun team events. We're diving into all aspects of it and it's super fun. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much for the raid. Guys, if you don't know Violet, fellow Nook stream team member, amazing streamer. Please go give her a follow if you're not already. But I feel like everybody should be following everybody in the Nook by now. But just in case, make sure you go give Vi some love.
It wasn't too long ago. Members of the Nook weren't following everybody.
Yeah, I know.
I'm still not following King.
I mean, you are banned, Tug. So
yeah, stream's going very well. Thanks, Vi. That's what I wish the stream team page would have, is like just one button to follow everybody.
Follow all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially those teams that have like, you know, a significant amount of people.
That's one on a list
be
of
nice.
several hundred things that they could do better with stream teams. But
Yeah,
hey,
that's a conversation.
one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we are actually at the part of the stream where if anyone has any questions, now's the time to get them in chat if there's anything that you feel like we missed touching on, because I'm sure there is. Yeah, we'll open up the floor now. By law, he has to keep 30 feet away.
I thought that restraining order was over. Was it not? All right.
Just because you put it in the unban request doesn't mean it's over.
Yeah. Chemo says, don't know if you want to talk about it, but how do you decide on, plan, or interact with outside events that a member might participate in, like the RimWorld charity event?
So the RimWorld charity event we participated with Halcyon Frequency during this last one. It was a lot of fun. And combining efforts with other teams, with other groups of people, can be really, really good. Particularly in something like the hot potato, or when you have a relay format, because that allows you to bring communities together. That allows like the creation of a Venn diagram of viewership, and people get eyes on your content. It can help you grow personally as a channel. It can help you grow as a team, but also combining the energies of two disparate groups of people can bring together for a common cause and end up raising a lot more money. The hot potato event this last time raised a ton of money. They did an unbelievable job. We were thrilled to be a part of it. The hot potato has always been a really, really cool thing. And as I mentioned before, it's been a big influence, an initial influence for the creation of the Big Dig for us. So when you have other teams and other groups of people, there's definitely opportunities there. We don't have anything planned right now, but there are a few other groups that we have kind of bounced ideas off of to possibly do future events with. So like that kind of thing can definitely help to drive up an event really, really, really well.
Yeah, cool. Kung Juice asked about how he came to the 10K initial goal for the charity. Thank you, Avi, for answering that. Yeah, just kind of how many hours are we streaming? What do we think is doable per hour?
Yeah, so we reasonably thought that $500 an hour was across the entire event was a good goal, and then we doubled that for the winter charity event, and still blew through that. So that's something like we talked about with setting goals and balancing attainable goals with stretch goals and things. That's something we'll revisit for the next event. But it's really hard to really hard to gauge where you're going to end up with that, particularly a year on now when everyone's stream has grown, our communities have grown. So we have to kind of re-gauge where that engagement is going to be and what our expectations will end up being. And then probably still fall horrendously short. So
Yeah.
It's weighing up whether it was because it was our first event, was that going to have more momentum behind it
Right.
versus the growth that we've all had since then. The more people will be involved. There's a lot of factors to consider with a price like that. I mean, now I remember one of the things, there were a lot of people involved before who hadn't raised money for charity or hadn't done a charity stream like that. So they now know what their community can do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go into this with pre-established information. But also one of the top aims of a charity event is to be able to adapt, and we were quite lucky to hit that 10 grand target quite early on, which gave us time to be able to adapt. If that had been slightly more strung out, then it looks like that's the end goal and your community can then just go, oh, we hit it. Whereas
Right.
because we got that so early, I think the community were like, let's see how far we can take this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there would have
Yep.
been much different outcome if that 10K was hit like halfway through or even 75% of the way through. But yeah, because it's so early on and you look and you go, wow, there's like 80 hours left of this still or more. I can't even remember how far in we hit that 10K, but
It was very quickly.
yeah.
It was the entire event.
Yeah.
That entire summer event was incredible. Like every time I managed to get a little bit of sleep, I would wake up and just my jaw would fall back onto the floor with the generosity of our communities.
Yeah.
It seemed to be the right event for the right charity at the right time. I think a lot of it went into that. I don't want to say that our planning and our execution is the reason behind that. It's 100% our community. It's 100% just the way the world was at the time and continues to be, and having a mental health charity as the backbone of the event was, I think, a big part of it, and it really resonated with our communities, which goes back to what we talked about when you're brainstorming is picking something that you're passionate about, picking something that your community will resonate with and be passionate about. So yeah, I think we kind of ended up hitting on all those points. There are things that we can do better for the next one, but we definitely hit a bunch of really good resonation points initially with the first one.
Yeah. And Ananda makes a good point is, yeah, the first event, there was so much hype around. And I think that every event we do, there still is going to be hype. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't think we should expect that every time. Like it wouldn't make sense to set the next, like this summer at base of 50K. Like maybe we'll hit it again, but I mean just like what King said earlier, like it's hard to know if we hit that because it was just the first event and the charity combined with the time of year with COVID and everybody's mental health kind of being in a rough spot, and it just resonated with so many people. Like there's so many factors that go into it. But I'm sure I feel like we'll probably set a good goal this year.
Yeah, I think if you know that there's something, so let's say we might be saying, oh, a lot of that was because it was a first event. How can you counter that? So now we can go to Twitch and say, well, is there any chance of something like, I don't know, front page support? Or we can go to a charity and be like, well, we might be able to get a bit more support. So can we counter that? If there's going to be a drop on one side, what can we do to raise the balance back up? So I think the planning will never stop. You always have to adapt your planning of any event from prior experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The biggest lesson that we probably learned, the overall biggest lesson, is establishing stretch goals beforehand instead of scrambling to come up with them on the spot. That's easily the biggest lesson that we learned from the first one.
Yeah, 100%. Someone had asked, the best place to keep up with our upcoming events, definitely our Twitter. 100%. Thank you, Abby, for posting the link in chat. Our Twitter is absolutely the best place to keep up with events. Tug and Twiggy do a really good job of managing that and posting when things are coming. But also I would suggest too that, like you can ask any of us Nook streamers, about what's coming. And we all do a good job anyway of talking in our streams about Nook stuff in general. But that's another good place to find out about upcoming stuff. So what is coming?
What is coming? 2 weeks from Monday, we have the Big Dig is kicking off. That's the biggest event that we have coming. Plus, we have the big build running in the background. The first week of challenges, which is the Treehouse Challenge, is coming to an end tomorrow. And then we'll have a new challenge that'll come up. A bunch of people have been doing the Treehouse Challenge, so there's a bunch of content coming out for that. I know Drongo is going to be putting out a YouTube video with it. Sal and Part Time have been streaming from the server, as well as a bunch of other people have been streaming from the server. So that has been a lot of fun, and that's going to be constantly ongoing in the background to the Big Dig. But the Big Dig is our next big event, and that's 2 weeks from Monday. Is going to kick off with Chubex, which is going to be absolutely delightful. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
It's going to be good. I just posted the link again in chat for those of you that just want to check out the schedule and who will be streaming when. Just a reminder that we do have 10 new Nook streamers out of the 14 that are brand new to the Big Dig, and they have not participated in it yet. So this will be their first season. It's going to be good.
The most impressive thing in the Big Dig last season had to be either King's Cat, which was pretty impressive. Honestly, the creation of Faloin's emote was so well done. I was really impressed with that. It 100% was not the aircraft carrier.
I was just about to say, as much as I hate that analogy, I was impressed with Mark's boat.
Don't encourage him, please.
I know. I also enjoyed the 5 out of 10
Yeah.
sign.
I think going back like the
It was
giant
okay.
creeper.
That was incredible. Yes. Chubex's notes to everybody were incredible. There were so many great memories from season 1 of the Big Dig. If you go to thebigdig.xyz, G. Scott, one of the cornerstones of our community, has made a Big Dig website. You can see a lot of the VODs and stuff from season 1, as well as the schedule on who's participating in season 2. So you can see a lot of that stuff there. It's really, really good. Yeah, there was so much good stuff. I'm so excited for season 2 of the Big Dig, because now there's going to be challenges, so there's going to be a little bit more focus on what people are trying to do each week. The first one, we didn't know how it was going to go, so we just want to kind of let people explore and do whatever. So having the challenges and having kind of specific targets is going to be really interesting. So I can't wait for that. We're going to have a little piece teasing the Big Dig is going to come out on Monday, so stay tuned to our Twitter for that.
Sorry, I forgot that there was a the in front of Big Dig, but
yeah,
big props to you for that website. That is really well done. Thank you. Any other questions before we wind down and wrap up? Last call. I have a question. Ananda?
Yeah, Anthro,
it's
super good. She did an absolutely fantastic job. It's really incredible.
We're just gonna one more time plug our merch. For those of you that weren't here at the start of the stream that maybe missed out, we have Nook merch now. So go and pick up yourself a cozy blanket, a mug for your tea or coffee, and if you want, limited time only, Nookamon poster, because KP loves to curse us. So can King please not make questions slated towards Team Doug next time?
Pay to win.
I love it.
No promises.
Gee, thanks for tossing that out there. And just, thank you again for doing that for us. Awesome. Well, who is live right now on the next team?
Maria's doing crowd control.
Yes.
In Breath of the Wild. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was happening today. Okay. Beautiful. Well, we should go send the love to Maria then.
If you haven't seen crowd control before, it will allow you to control Maria's game. You can make it run faster, run slower, spawn enemies, take hearts away. It's a ton of fun. So please stick through for the raid.
Yes.
It's an absolute hoot.
If you want to go to Maria's stream in advance of the raid to make sure that the referrer code is not part of the URL and that you count as an actual viewer, make sure you click that link right now. If you're not on mobile, get her open in another tab, and then that way we can just help support Maria. Thank thank you guys so much for being here. Tug, are you creating a raid message or someone? I feel like we need to make a standard raid message for this channel, and we just have not done that yet.
Let's do Pride Hearts. Why not?
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna kick off the raid here.
There we go. Well, thank you for having me on my
Thank you.
first NookCast.
Yeah, thank you both. Thank you both for joining me today. It was lovely to have you both on talking about this. I actually learned a lot just talking with you guys. So yeah, thank you for sharing all this valuable information. This has been a really good episode. So thank you for raising your hand to jump on with me, to jump on the podcast.
Anytime.
Yeah. Guys, if
Ciao,
you have
ciao.
never been to Maria's stream, Maria is an absolutely lovely, lovely member of the Nook. Variety streamer, incredibly entertaining. You are going to love it over there. So let's send her some Nook love. And with that, we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Take care. Have a good one.
The Nook.
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 The Nook.